We're here today to talk about copyright and source material and the doctrine of fair use and how that applies. And so let's start with the basics of copyright. Copyright is the law that protects any form of expression that's captured in a tangible form. So anything that's written, that's on a piece of paper, anything that's typed into a computer memory bank, anything that's filmed or photographed, once it's captured in tangible form, it's protected by copyright. And copyright is the law that gives the owner of the copyright, which usually is the author, the exclusive right to reproduce, to publish, to distribute, or to publicly display a work. So if you are the copyright owner, you are the only one who the law allows to authorize publication. And the particular rights that come along with copyright are reproduction, which everyone's familiar with. So if it's your copyright, I can't take your book, put it on a copy machine, print out new copies, and go out and sell them. That would infringe your rights. I can't make derivatives of your work. So if you've written a book, I can't make a movie based on your book unless I get permission from you. Otherwise, that would infringe the copyright. People think of copyright as applying to great works of literature and important pieces of art, but it applies to very mundane things as well. It applies to a letter that you might write to a friend, or a lengthy text. Wouldn't apply to a few words strung together, but if you do a text that is expressive, it's in tangible form, that's theoretically protected by copyright. And so relating it to the news, sometimes you are doing reporting, you're digging to find material of interest to the public, and you come across terrific source material. A company has commissioned a study on the safety of its products, and the products are viewed by the company's consultant to be dangerous, and the company hides this and hides the document, and you come across it and you want to report on it. Very often, because they don't have other grounds to prevent you from doing the report, you might get a claim that using that source material is an infringement of the copyright. And technically, it is, because you are using someone's work without their permission. But copyright has a doctrine called fair use. And fair use is something that is built into the law to balance copyright with the interests of the public under the First Amendment. So the doctrine of fair use allows you to make certain uses that are publicly beneficial. And the way to determine if it is a fair use, there is a provision of the copyright statute that lays out factors. And the factors include what is the purpose of your use. Some uses are favored. So uses for news reporting, for criticism, for commentary, for education are favored uses. Uses for commercial purposes are disfavored, less likely to be fair. Whether the work has been previously published is a factor that you consider. You consider how much of the work you've used. So if I take a little excerpt of your work, it's more likely to be fair than if I copy the whole thing. And the fourth factor in the statute is whether it is something that affects the market for the original. So if the use that you are making steals my market, if I, as we talked about before, if I have a book and you make a movie based on it, you've now stolen my market, or you've done something that will affect a market for my work, that's less likely to be fair than if you make a use that doesn't stand in the market for the same purposes. The most important factor that courts look at in balancing all of these four factors is whether the use is transformative. And what that means is whether you're taking the work and just using it as it was for the same purpose, which is not transformative, or you're using it as a building block, as material on which you build other information. You add your own reporting. You use it for different purposes, and that is more favored. So going back to the example of you've come across this negative report that the company tried to hide, and you want to report on that. Well, the first thing to know is that copyright never protects facts. So you can always reproduce or report on the facts that are revealed in this report. What copyright protects is only the way those facts have been expressed. So if you tell your own story about the facts without copying the precise wording or approximately precise wording, you are allowed to use the facts. But if you need to go beyond just the facts and the document itself is important to your story, you need to transform it. So you should use excerpts of it. Excerpts are more likely to be fair. And you should build your own reporting on it, and it should not be sensational. So from the standpoint of you shouldn't just, the report shouldn't be, hey, they had this bad report and here it is, come read it. That's less likely to be fair than putting it in context, that there's been a dispute in the market over the safety of this product and children have been hurt. And here the company may have known all along because we've uncovered this report. And this section of the report, and then you go on and you can quote pieces of it as opposed to putting the entirety of it in the public. So basically, copyright protects the rights of authors and other creators of expressive works that are captured in tangible form. And those rights are not absolute. One of the limits on those rights is the doctrine of fair use, and fair use is handy when you are reporting on source material. Use for news purposes will typically be favored, but keep in mind it's not always favored. It's not automatic. Just because it's for news reporting or criticism or commentary does not automatically make it fair use. So you still have to balance all of the factors, and it's determined on a case-by-case basis.